Okay guys, so now we are going to do linked list using Python. Okay, so what is a linked list? Linked list can be defined as a list having a number of nodes. So what are nodes? Nodes are something like this. This is a node. Okay, this is a node. It has a value and an address part. Now the address part holds the address of the next node. This is a point to remember. It holds the address of the next node, like this one. Okay, the address of this node is 1200. The address of this next node is 1201. So this node holds the address of this node holds the address of this node. Okay, see, the address part contains 1201, which is the address of this node. Similarly, this node contains address of 1202, which is the address of this node. One more thing to remember when you are doing linked list, that a linked list, the first node of the linked list is always the head. Okay, its head, and this head will remain unchanged during the whole program. We do not change the head. It will always be on the first node of the linked list. Okay, initially the value of head is always null. Now let's see how we can do it in using Python. First, let's define a class which we call as node. Initialize using init and self and data equal to none. Okay, guys, one thing to remember is that when we give data equal to none, it does not mean that the value of the data will always be null, but instead if we pass any value, then the value would be null, then the value will not be null. Suppose if we pass data equal to 5, then the value that is node equal to node of 5. Okay, then the value of data will go from none to 5. Okay, so the value of data will be equal to be 5. Okay, this is a very good point to remember. Now going to the next line, self dot data equal to data, and self dot next equal to none. So the class is over. What we next want to do is we want the user to give input. So we will use a for loop for val in range say 0 to 5. Okay, input value equal to input. Now function insert the value. So we have written a function called insert value, but we haven't defined it, so we have to define it now. But first let's define head. Head is equal to none. Okay, that means as we have defined, told before, as I told before, that head is initially null. Okay, so here head is none. Now let's define the function if insert val. Okay, now what we need to do, we first need to create a node. So let's name the node as ptr, and ptr equal to node of val. Okay, the node is created. Now if head is none, so what will we do if head is none? See, if the head is null, that is it is not referring to anything at the initially, we will say that head will point to the first node. Okay, head will point to the first node. Okay, now the head is now pointing to the first node, so we have to define that in the program. Head equal to ptr. Okay, one thing is that any function, if any variable is globally declared and we want to change its value, then we have to give global in front of that variable and define it at first, that we are trying to change the value of the global variable. This is a new thing in Python, that we have to define global and the variable name, then only we can change the variable. This global variable name, vari name. Okay, then only we can change the value, then only we can change the value in a function of a for a global variable. Okay, so now that it is defined, now say now head is not null, right? So head is not null at this moment. So what will happen? So after the second node is entered, this say this node is now entered into the system. So what will happen? How do we link this node with this node? Okay, so let's see how we'll define it. Let's go to else part and take a temporary variable. So we can take temp equal to head, right? So now temp and head are the same, which means that temp is temp is define is at this node also. Okay, next, while temp dot next not equal to none, you can define it like this, or you can define is not none, which is a better definition in Python. Okay, also can do temp dot next not equal to none. Okay, so what will happen? So until it gets a value none, so what will happen? Temp equal to temp dot next. Okay, and we end the while loop. Next we do is temp dot next equal to ptr. Okay, so what this loop does is, so it sees until when the value is the address part of the value is null. Here it is null, right? So it is first here. Okay, it checks if the value of the next part is none. Okay, initially it is none. Okay, so it just enters put that its next part is none. Next part is equal to 1201. Okay, that defines that this one is this one. Okay, and every time it does the same loop and we get the node. So here we get the insert function. Now let's define a display function. Okay, so what will display function do is, first let's define another variable ptr equal to head, while ptr is not none. Why ptr is not none? What do we do? Ptr equal to print ptr dot data and ptr equal to ptr dot next. Okay, see, there is a difference between temp dot next is not none and ptr and temp is okay. If I define this as temp, it will be far more easier for you also to understand the difference between those two statements. Okay, let's define it as temp. See, when we define that temp dot next is not none, then it will end up until here. Okay, it will end up until here, but it will not print the value. It will not print the value. Okay, but when we use ptr is not none, then it will go all the way up to the next value, which is none, which is null. Okay, so I hope you understand null. Okay, now when temp will uh, be null, then only the loop ends. Then it prints the value of this value also of the last node. If we do use temp dot next no, is not none, then it will not show this value. It will not show this value. Okay, so let's run the program and let's see if it works. So 1 2 3 4 and 5. Okay, we haven't called the display function, sorry. um, Display. Okay, 1 2 3 4 and 5. See, it works perfectly fine. So this is the end of how to create a linked list using Python. Thank you guys for watching.